Vamshi, explain about yourself.
First of all, thanks for giving me this opportunity. Introducing myself. My name is Vamshi. I'm from Vijayawada. Recently, I have completed my BTech in College of Technology in the stream of Electronics Communication Engineering. After completion of my BTech, I joined in VCube. Programming language like Java, Core Java, and MySQL, and front-end tools like JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and React.
Okay.
And frameworks like Spring Boot, Micro.
So, did you complete any projects?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I have done.
Explain about your projects.
I have done cricket auction management system. I use Spring Security in my application. So everyone logins in my application. Only authorized persons who can log in application.
How you provided that authorization?
First of all, authentication. I use the concept of authentication, authorization, and JW token. First of all, user wants to log in. It checks the identity. Username and password is correct or valid. It logins to my application. Otherwise, it gives a message of invalid credential. In a practical in my project, authentication interface, username, password, validator as an interface. It extends the authentication interface. After that class name called authentication manager class, we are passing the username, password in the authentication manager. It gives to it is like a controller. It gives to the authentication provider. It checks the username and password validations, user service detail, and it traces the data from the database and checks the validations. After that, password encrypt is to which the password is we are giving, and the database password is matches, gives the as authorized person.
Okay. What is JWT in between?
JWT is a token. Instead of
why should I generate JWT token?
Yeah, we are moving to the one page to another page. We are giving our details, username like password. Instead of we are giving for every HTTP request, we are giving to the we are generating a JWT token. How we are generating the JWT token? Like first, we are creating a secret key, and that we are passing the secret key into a key. Like we are using a method called HMCA Shakifar. In that method, we are passing the secret key under dot get bytes. After that, like we are generating a method like generate a token. In that method, we are passing a username, and that it returns a JWT dot builder. After that, set a subject like username. Who is the user is the JWT we are generating. And after that, set issue date where the JWT token is generated at
what time? Yeah.
At what time? After set expiration time.
Okay. How much time you can maintain that JWT token?
Like we can maintain
1 minute.
1 minute or
yeah. That's what. Like explain about OpenFeign client.
OpenFeign client. OpenFeign client is a synchronized process on microservices. OpenFeign client is a declarative HTTP client in a Spring Cloud. Declarative means we are declaring we are declaring. It does not do anything. We are using interface in client. Instead of using REST template web client, we are removing the boilerplate code in the client.
Okay.
We are using interface. Like for example, if I am choosing employee and address services, we are creating address client in like interface. In that interface, we are address client.
Okay.
First of all, we are mentioning the @enable fin client in the main class.
Okay.
We must write in the main class. After that, in interface @fin client, that we are giving a service name URL. We are passing of the employee service username.
Okay. So comes to annotations. So explain about @configuration versus @bean, @transaction.
@configuration means if we are mentioning like creating a bean for service, like
for
service layer, creating the repositories.
Okay.
We are creating the beans for control.
Why @configuration? Why @bean?
Configuration, if you are mentioning like employee service variable, if you are mentioning like that, Spring Boot automatically gives the beans for us.
Okay.
If you are
where do we need to use @bean mandatory?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So @bean is only for methods or classes also?
Only for methods.
Only for methods. Okay. Explain about @repository.
@repository is we are dealing with the database operations or any database errors. It goes to the @repository.
Okay.
All the database
what we are
operations.
extending, for example, I have employee repository. What I need to extend?
JPA repository we are extending.
My employee repository interface. Okay. So you are extending JPA repository.
Yes.
So what JPA repository extends?
Sir?
JPA repository extends what?
Extends we are passing the model class and
no. So it's what it takes means whatever the model class you can pass and ID you can pass.
Hibernate.
I'm telling that there is an employee repository extends JPA repository. What this JPA repository extends? Okay, CRUD JPA repository.
CRUD JPA repository.
Okay, JPA CRUD repository is like there is a one more interface. From that interface, the JPA repository is getting the methods. From here, it is getting the methods again. Okay, explain about Spring AI. What is the difference between AI, Gen AI, Spring AI?
Yeah, if we are going to the AI, it's like if we are giving a request, it gives the response for us. Like we are using face recognition, it stores the data and it fetches the data from database.
Okay.
And it validates the face recognition details, whether it is valid or not. It checks only. Whether we are going to the Gen AI, it is a subset of AI. It generates a new response for us. It generates a new content for us.
Okay, example?
For example, Chat GPT, Gemini AI.
So all these are Gen AI. So then what about Spring AI in between?
Spring AI is a tool or framework in Java. We are integrating the Spring AI in our Spring Boot applications. If we are integrating, we can use the Spring AI like chatbots giving a request. It gives the response for us in our Spring Boot application through Spring Boot application.
Okay. So did you create any chatbot?
Yes, I created a chatbot.
Explain the process.
I created a chatbot using the Mistral AI, and I created chatbot also Olama AI. First of all, we need to install the Olama AI in our system.
What is Olama AI?
Olama is a software.
Okay. So it's one of the AI model.
One of the AI model.
Yeah.
In that Olama AI, after installation of Olama AI, go to command prompt, check the version of Olama AI like Olama version.
Which version you are using?
0.29.3.
Okay. Okay. Go on.
So after checking the version, go to the module like AI module. I use it in Olama.
Okay.
After pulling the Olama, it's like downloading process 600 MB it takes.
Okay. So
after pulling,
so for this we need to use API key, right? So which API key used for it?
For Olama, there is no need to use the API key.
Okay.
For Mistral AI,
Mistral AI, you used this API key, right?
Yes, sir.
How you generated that API key?
I generated the API key Mistral AI Cloud website, and I created an account. After creation of account, there is a section like.
So is it free version or you paid for anything?
Free version. Sir.
So Mistral
there is no
AI
expiration for the.
So is there any free versions like this Mistral AI?
Yes, sir. Grok AI.
Okay.
Like there are some free versions.
So inside that we must need to use REST template methods, right? What are the REST template methods you used?
REST template methods, post for entity I use.
Okay, what is the difference between post for entity versus post for object?
If you are use post for object, you must need to give JSON data only. If you are getting the request or response from the URL, you must need to use post for entity.
Post for entity. Okay. So great. Explain the difference between patch mapping versus put mapping.
Put mapping used to, if you are updating entire row, you must need to use put mapping. Update only specific row, a specific column, you can go with the patch mapping.
Okay. So it's about row or how? It's a partial data you mentioned.
Yes, a partial. If you are updating the partial update,
okay.
Go for patch mapping.
So there is a response entity. Explain about response entity. When should we go for response entity?
Response entity.
Yeah. Request body versus response body. Tell me about response body versus request body. What is the difference?
Request body used to takes the request from JSON or Postman.
Okay.
Takes the request. Response body gives the request body takes the request from the Postman. It takes the request as data like JSON and converts the JSON data into one object. And after processing the operation, it gives the response as JSON data.
Okay. Tell me about some of the HTTP status codes you used.
I used some HTTP status codes like 200 is okay, 201 just content is created, 302 redirection, 400 bad request, 401 unauthorized, 403 forbidden, 404 file not found, 500 internal server error, 503 server is unreachable. Okay,
good. So tell me REST API versus SOAP API versus web application.
If we are using REST APIs.
What is REST API?
REST API is like we are using JSON. First of all, REST API is it follows some REST rules. If you want to communicate with one system to another system, we are using REST API.
Okay. What about SOAP API?
SOAP API.
Not sure. Okay. What is the difference between REST APIs versus web applications?
In REST API, we are using the only Postman. Like I use Postman, sending the lightweight data, the JSON data. If you are work with the web pages, go for web applications.
So for creating web application, which type of controller we need to use as an addition?
@controller.
Okay. Tell me servlet lifecycle.
Servlet lifecycle. There are some phases in servlet lifecycle. Like first of all, instantiation. Second one, initialization. After service phase, destruction phase. Instantiation phase, it loads all the resources.
If I have thousands of requests coming, so how that servlet is maintaining with a single object? Which concept you can consider as this?
Singleton.
Singleton. Explain about singleton.
Singleton means in the entire application you are creating only one object. You are using the object in where we can use where we can require the object. Only we are using singleton.
How to create a singleton object?
You can create singleton object by mentioning the constructor as private. Create a singleton object.
Only constructor as private will help you to create a singleton object. Any more things? Not sure. Okay. Okay. Explain about immutability. What is immutable?
Immutable means if once you created, you can't change.
How to create an immutable class?
By mentioning the class as final.
Class as final. Okay. Methods. Do I need to keep setters and getters both inside the class? Okay. So there you need to understand, you need to have only setters. Explain about linked list versus array list.
Array list is the implemented class of list interface. Array list allows duplicates, null values. There is a insertion order, index based in the array list.
Okay. Difference between array list versus linked list.
Array list internally implements these random access.
Okay. Then what about
then
what is the internal implementation of array list?
Array list can easily access the data.
Okay. Because of
random access.
What is random access?
Random access is also an interface.
Is it a marker interface or a functional interface?
Marker interface.
What is marker interface?
Marker interface does not have any methods.
Okay.
But it gives a implementation.
Okay. About linked list?
Linked list easy for data insertion and deletion.
Okay. Do you have any idea about time complexity of this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So tell me React hooks.
I use React hooks in my project like use effect and use state. Use it to if you want to. Before React hooks, we are using class components. Class component there are some lifecycle methods in the class component.
Explain about methods with examples.
Like there are three phases: mounting phase, updating phase, and unmounting phase. In mounting phase, there are some three different methods like constructor, static get derived state from props, render. After that, component did mount.
Okay.
In mounting, in updating static get derived state from props and update render.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me about functional components.
In React, functional components are used Reacts, and it is a modern way. In class components, there is a state. State means updating the content.
Okay.
State like a variable. In class component, we are using this, but in functional component, we can't use this. So React hooks comes to this. Use state method. We can update the state like constant, like formula, like constant initial value. Function we are updating equal to use effect initial value.
Okay. So I'm good. All the best.